market, I can't tell you, but I can tell you our country has gotten a lot stronger. And eventually, it'll be a country like no other. It'll be the most dominant country economically in the world.
Is there pain in the market at some point? You're unwilling to tolerate this idea of a Trump put? Is there a threshold?
I think your question is so stupid. I mean, I think it's I don't want anything to go down, but sometimes you have to take medicine to fix something.
Hello everyone, welcome to MzansiOz Diary. If you're new here, you're very much welcome. And today on the 7th of April 2025, yes, we're going to talk about this market issue, why the market dropped today, stocks slipping, and tariffs are rising everywhere where you look, and why Donald Trump keeps saying this trade deficits, that the trade deficit is actually means America is losing. And let's break it down for you.
The Chinese Foreign Ministry said that the market has spoken when asked about the tariffs. What do you make of that?
The market has spoken when they look at the fact that we have $1 billion trade deficit. When you look at the trade deficit that we have with certain countries, way over $1 billion per country. But with China, it's $1 trillion. And we have to solve our trade deficit with China. We have $1 trillion trade deficit with China. Hundreds of billions of dollars a year we lose with China. And unless we solve that problem, I'm not going to make a deal. Now, I'm willing to deal with China, but they have to solve their surplus. We have a tremendous deficit problem with China. They have a surplus of at least $1 trillion a year. I think it's like $1.1 trillion. And I want that solved. And so China is, they say the market's spoken. China is right now taking a big hit because everyone knows we're right.
Donald Trump has always framed the US trade deficit as a scoreboard of failure. He really has always looked at that trade deficit as a failure. America's failed. Is this logic? If Americans are buying more than they're selling, then he thinks other countries are winning. If Americans are consuming more products, that means America is not really doing well. And he always looked at that deficit as a ripoff. They're ripping us off. Is it really that true that they're ripping us off? Let's have a look.
Were there any deals made?
I spoke to a lot of leaders, European, Asian, from all over the world. They're dying to make a deal. But I said, we're not going to have deficits with your country. We're not going to do that because to me a deficit is a loss. We're going to have surpluses, or we're at worst going to be breaking even. We've been treated so badly by other countries.
A trade deficit means we are losing. We are losing money, we are losing jobs, we are losing our factory. Really? Is that true? To Trump, imports don't mean foreign goods. They mean lost American jobs. That's how you view it. Shuttered factories and the dangerous dependence on countries like China. This is how he views everything, this trade, this thing about the deficit. We've had a very nearly about $1 billion lost today in the ASX 200 as a result of these retaliatory tariffs that he imposed, and then China clapped back with the 34%. And also restricted some of the rare earth minerals. When you look at it, Trump's to return to the tariff, and this tariff that he's given to all these countries, Liberation Day, and resulting in China clapping back with 34% on US goods and restricted rare earth minerals. And we saw today the Asian markets tanked as well. The ASX lost over 100 billion Australian dollars in values. The Australian dollars also dropped to its lowest level since 2020.
Carnage, panic, bloodbath doesn't even begin to cut it. And you look at the declines on the region's benchmark, worst since 2008. It is across all asset classes. We're seeing the reeling from this ramped up tariff war, and it is also across geographies, across sectors when you're looking at stocks. Really interesting as well, the likes of the Singapore benchmark, normally seen as very stable, plunging by the most on record. That tells you a lot. The difference this time around for traders that are looking for a reference, is this as bad as GFC or March 2020, is that if you're comparing this to the early days of the pandemic, Powell doesn't seem like he's willing or very eager to kind of swoop in with support. And for China, that's back from an extended weekend, it just shows you how they are also part of the tariff pain, because there was speculation that the optimism of Chinese support measures would mean that the declines were not as bad today. But look at the Hang Seng, almost 11% down, the worst decline since the GFC. If you're looking at the Hang Seng Tech Gauge, is the worst on record since 2015. Flip the board. The question also becomes what China is going to do amid these tariffs. If you look at some of the moves on the renminbi in the first tariff war, depreciation of about 10%. Some strategists say this time around we could see 15% devaluation of the yuan, as much as 30%. We have the likes of Mizuho saying, no, that's not the case, that the PBOC is unlikely to want the yuan to devalue because they want to anchor growth expectations, and they also want to prevent capital outflow. So keep that in mind, even as we see the renminbi taking a hit today.
So while companies that sells rare earth like the Lena's got a boost today, the rest of the market really got hammered. And you know what? The inflation is ticking up. No rate cut for us, RBA. Unlikely. So that might be delayed, the rate cut. And yeah, welcome to Trade War 2.0.
The sense that one of the factors that might be driving Donald Trump is this sense that if you make it difficult for products to come into the United States, that they will just be made in the States itself, even if there isn't a pipeline of industry or, in fact, no diamonds, to reference your point earlier.
Well, look, it's a real blast from the past, this is. I mean, manufacturing has moved on. Manufacturing uses robots now, not people. So the idea that you can have a whole lot of jobs from by building a manufacturing industry is a fantasy. And anyway, do American workers really want to make shirts and underpants now? I mean, let them get made in China. That's fine. America has a big trade surplus in services, not goods. And anyway, every complex manufactured product, such as smartphones or cars, are the result of a very intricate global ecosystem of supply chains, of parts and pieces moving around, bits get made all over the place. I mean, the whole thing is based on a misunderstanding, really, of how manufacturing in the modern era actually works.
While Trump thinks, trade deficit is bad, but most economists don't think that trade deficit is actually bad. And most economics, they think trade deficit is actually means that a stronger domestic demand, which means Americans need more goods that American economy is able to provide. It also means that globally, most countries trust the American dollars. So it's not what Trump thinks. That's what economists think. Who do you trust? Do you trust the economics or do you trust Trump? Depends on your value system. What do you value most? You value research, education informed by history and others, or you just value the whatever is popular, whatever sticks? I mean, he does have a plan, and the plan is very scary. He don't know. Trump has a massive plan. Don't actually confuse what people are saying that he's an idiot. Oh no, he's not an idiot. Trump is not an idiot. He does have a plan, but his plan is very unconventional. It's not really the one that informed by how we know things. So when you look at that tariff, Matt, oh my God, I had a chuckle. I had a bit of a laugh. Oh, shit. That Matt for the tariff. Oh, that is Trump. That
Identified 3 reasons why you can't win a tariff war. The first is that it's simply impossible to argue against the mist of fabrication. Tell me where your head was at on this.
Well, so the tariffs that they've proposed, the whole list of tariffs, every country's got its own tariff, and they're meant to be reciprocal against tariffs that those countries are imposing against the United States. And they've basically done it by half. So, for example, and I use the example of Botswana, they are saying, that Trump is saying that Botswana has a tariff against imports from the United States of 74%, and therefore Botswana now has a tariff of 37% for its exports to America. And that's not true. I mean, Botswana doesn't have a tariff of 74%. How can it possibly negotiate with that? The 74%, and basically every tariff that is supposedly charged against the United States is derived from some sort of weird calculation based on the trade deficit. And the whole thing assumes that a trade deficit is bad, and that therefore, and that any trade deficit must be the result either of tariffs or non-tariff barriers. It can't possibly be the result of a competitive advantage, or in Botswana's case, most of the exports from Botswana to America are diamonds, and America has no diamond industry. So if anyone wants to get engaged in America and buy a diamond ring, it has to be imported, obviously, not just from Botswana, but from everywhere. So anyway, the whole thing is ridiculous.
is Trump, yeah. So yeah, mix things up, flash the numbers, yeah, numbers wangering everywhere. Oh, yeah. So the US dollar is the world reserve currency. That naturally fuels a trade deficit. If you're the world reserve currency, you're going to have a deficit. So cutting it overnight, like Trump wants, could backfire big time. That's what I'm saying. He's got a plan and he wants to cut the deficit. And he doesn't understand why, he doesn't get it in his brain that why the deficit's so large, because people trust the US dollar. If you are a world reserve currency, you are going to have a deficit. And the way he goes about doing it, cutting it the way he wants to do it in the art of the deal, apprenticeship. He thinks he's on television. So all of these countries that are coming to him with these deals, they are participating in Americans' apprenticeships. And this could backfire big time. This could actually backfire, I think. Apprenticeship, this is what you're all participating in, the apprenticeship. The art of the deal. What deal are you going to give America? What deal are you going to give Trump's America for your negotiation? And when you listen to the current officials from them, they don't think that these tariffs are going to last longer. They want you all to go and negotiate. But China said, no, we're not doing that. And they slapped America with 34% tariff, retaliatory tariff, and they restricted all the rare earth minerals. And we could benefit in Australia, and so is South Africa, but South Africa has their own tariff problems. But Australia can definitely benefit from the rare earth, of some of the rare earth they have, because the price is going to go up. And then you could actually benefit, depend on the volume. But yeah, it's so strange time we're in, really. We really are in a strange time.
And that this is broader than just trade, isn't it? This is about everything.
Well, so the tariffs are based on a declaration of emergency, right? He's using the International Economic Emergency Act that was passed in 1977, which gives the president power to bypass Congress if there's an emergency. And so he's saying that there's tariffs. These tariffs are based on an emergency, and so the Mexican and Canadian tariffs of 25%, which were announced in January, are based on a fentanyl emergency. Got nothing to do with the things that those countries actually export to America, or the trade deficit or surplus or whatever. It's got to do with fentanyl, which is truly a problem, no doubt about it. I think it probably is an emergency, but putting 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico have got nothing to do with fentanyl. So he's using that as a negotiating tool to try to force Canada and Mexico to stop the fentanyl crossing the border, which, you know, it just kind of, I suppose it's an indication of the way that Donald Trump thinks, which is that any negotiation is an exercise of bullying, that, you know, that all negotiations are basically about who has the greatest power. And what he's trying to do is to use the power of the American consumer. So basically every country in the world wants access to American consumers because they're the richest in the world. And he's trying to use his ability, using the Emergency Powers Act, to basically choke off or prevent countries getting access to American consumers in order to attain something else, whatever it might be.
But you know, this actually could backfire for Trump because he has a plan, but he doesn't know how to get there. What could happen in between? It's so simple, just as simple. His plan is as simple as that dumb tariff calculation. That one, yeah, that deficit over the imports and multiply by 0.5% is as dumb as that, because he hasn't actually looked at what could happen in between. His plan is to get there no matter what. Hasn't looked at what are the things that are happening around him that could happen, what others could respond to it. And because China hasn't actually buy into this negotiation, the out of the deal, apprenticeship negotiation type of, you know, give me your deal, what are you going to offer me, has slapped back into a 2.0 trade war. So now what? What are you going to do, Trump? What are you going to do now? You're going to crash the stock market. That's what's going to happen. You're going to crash the stock market. So is the trade deficit really a scorecard? Do you think this is a scorecard or it's just a scapegoat? So what happened now is the markets have actually rejected this tariff, from this tariff war. You know, just comment below, like, subscribe for more global markets breakdown. This is our global economy breakdown, and hit the bell. Don't miss out what's next on the economic showdown of 2025. And I'll be putting a lot more of that. I put a hold on the rare earth, and I think I'm going to have to continue on that rare earth because the rare earth have become so important. Yeah, because last time I spoke about those three rare earths. Perhaps I should continue on those rare earths and to explain around what would happen. We're looking at South Africa's rare earth, but that is also relevant. And each country has a different type of rare earths, and so yeah, I will continue with that rare earth. South Africa's rare earth minerals. You could learn a little bit, a few of those videos around what's the role of those rare earths, why are they important for our modern economy, and obviously I'm also an investor. I have stock as well. I have cryptos, I have bitcoins and all of that. You know, when you are investing and buying shares, you buy it, it's a risk. You buy it knowing that you are risking, you know, you make a calculation on your risk. There's a huge market sellout, but there's also an opportunity. So when the market goes down, that's when we look for opportunities. Where's the opportunity? Where is the opportunity? Some of these companies that have stocks in rare earths, knowing what we know now, but I'm not sure these tariffs are going to be for a long term. I think these tariffs are kind of like a negotiation tactics. Kind of like, let's see what they do, what they're going to offer me. Is China going to offer me a TikTok? And China has already slapped back and said no. What else I can do? They're not, I don't think they're going to be here for a long term, but we're going to be watching them. That's why you need to watch the stock of a company. If you want to buy stocks of a certain company, you need to know that company stock, the behavior of the stock. Stock markets, they're like people, they behave, they've got certain trend and behavior. So when you buy it, you buy at the bottom, and you need to know where the bottom is, where you're comfortable at that bottom. That have we reached the bottom? I'm not sure we've reached the bottom, and I think we're still going to go down, 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 down. So I'm not going to risk my money yet at this stage. But the bottom is when we buy the stock. We don't buy at the top. At the top, we sell them because we want to make profit. And talk about stock markets. Peter Dutton spoke about how he bought some stock. Did you listen? Peter Dutton, oh my goodness. He actually bought some stock, and then he bought them, a lot of them, during the global crisis, banking crisis, where the stock of the banks were going down. He just bought it right in time, just before they went up. He's smart, really smart. Do you think he can explain how he bought those stocks? He couldn't explain what woke is. Could he explain what he looked at when he bought the stock? What was the thing that he looked at to buy those stocks? I'll be so interested to know. I won't open that cans of worms on that stock market for Peter Dutton. There's a lot of things to explore there, and this is not a video for today. All right, thank you guys for listening. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. Press the like button and the notification bell. Until next time, have a lovely day. Bye.